Hi, everyone. Good morning. I hope you had a good morning and some coffee, because today will be a long day. So we are kicking off with a panel about builders in the vibe coding era, and we will discuss how vibe coding changed individuals, teams, startups, what it means for our industry. And I would like to, my name is Nikolai. I'm founder and CEO of Hyperskill. We build an educational platform for computer science learning and also AI learning nowadays. So we teach people how to code, how to build also in a new world of AI. And I'd like to present you our smart panel. Please tell a little bit about yourself, starting Artem.
Hello, everyone. My name is Artem. I'm currently doing my PhD at MIT CSAIL. I work on problems of computer vision. And also I'm running this thing called Sunday Club. It's basically a community. I see a bunch of our members here, community of developers and people passionate about AI. So we come together every Sunday and try to build something, prototype, develop MVPs quickly. So I also have this site and exposure to people who try to create startups very quickly.
Yeah. Awesome. Good morning, everyone. I'm Hina Purohit. I'm the director of AI startups at Microsoft. And I'll talk about, I'm assuming everyone here knows about Microsoft, and I specifically work on finding and supporting our high growth strategic startups. So my experience with vibe coding, just to set context, is I am a user. I'm an enthusiast who loves tinkering with these tools. And I also work with a lot of founders that are building in this vibe coding era.
Hello, my name is Aldo. I am a lead engineer in the post-training team at MIT and IBM and at Red Hat. And I've been kind of vibe coding a lot of the same thing that is producing the vibe coding. So it's like a meta vibe coding there happening, and it's kind of interesting how that loop closes and creates more and better models over time, faster. And we're going to have a pretty good discussion about that today.
Good morning. My name is Zach. I'm the founder and CEO of a startup called Warp. Warp is a reimagination of the command line terminal. One of the key features in Warp is you can just tell the terminal what you want it to do in natural language. That could be anything from setting up a project to vibe coding to deploying it. My experience of vibe coding is people use Warp to do vibe coding. They use it to do sort of vibe development in a larger sense, not just writing code in the style of vibing, but also messing with their infrastructure and their whole computer. So excited for this discussion today.
Yeah. Thank you. Is my mic? Oh, yeah. Okay. Thank you. So to set the stage, Artem, can you define what is vibe coding and how it's different from traditional coding and why it's worse? This panel, why are we discussing it?
Yeah, I think originally this term was introduced 2 months ago.
Yeah.
Right.
2 months ago.
Yeah, approximately 2 months ago. On Twitter, and I guess the whole beauty of this term is because it so accurately represents what's actually happening whenever you're experiencing this vibe coding. To me, vibe coding is basically right now with all LLM assistant tools, with the progress of AI, we achieved the state that you can basically code and develop applications with just text descriptions, right? And it's so good at this point that you don't even have to read the code that it produces. You much rather just basically tell a prompt to the assistant, it generates a part of the code for you, and then quite often, because developers are notorious for being lazy, you don't even read the code. And I think this is, for me at least, this is the border where it becomes vibe coding. If you don't read the code it generates, if you just kind of run with it, you go based off vibes, and if you don't like something, you instead of looking to the code and trying to actually understand why it's not working the way you do, you would just constantly copy paste the errors into the LLM assistant. You would beg it to please improve this, please make UI better. And to me, this is vibe coding, I think.
Cool. Yeah, thank you. Aldo, by your experience, like what are common misunderstandings and challenges for developers to use vibe coding?
So I guess to add a little bit to what Artyom said, so it's true that vibe coding, I think it starts when you just see the vibes. Like you don't even try to understand what the code is doing. You don't even read the code.
Yeah.
You're just feeling it. And exactly. So I think the challenges also started like when the only output of your code or when the only feedback loop that you're getting from your code is just the print statements, or in the case of front end, whatever front end you're seeing, like there might be a lot of like a million bugs that you're not testing for, and the architecture might not be scalable, impossible to integrate with anything else, and impossible to understand. And I guess a lot of the challenges come from the fact that if you don't really know what's happening behind the scenes as a developer, the software is doomed to fail. Maybe you get a cool like prototype, which is something that we have a lot of experience with.
Yeah.
But like as a maintainable and expandable a software that is going to be growing over time, I think just the vibes cannot be the only feedback.
And do you think it will get better?
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure.
So like a level of vibes will be higher in the future?
Maybe like because of the way and the way users interact with code via LLM assisted tools, I think there's going to be like Cursor and all of these other IDEs are going to start including like unit tests, which Windsurf already does, and is going to start surfacing into the vibes the possible problems and the possible implications of whatever architecture is being developed by the LLM assistant tools.
Okay. Great, thank you, Aldo. Zach, so you're developing next generation terminal. Basically, terminal is like all the tools developers are using, and it's quite conservative usually. What is your like? How do you design for vibe coding experience? What is vibe coding for you?
Yeah, the terminal is actually an interesting interface for vibe coding because it's already set up as an interface where developers for the last 40, 50 years have been telling their computer what to do. They've just been telling it what to do by writing commands. Today in the terminal, what you can do is you can just tell it in English, and similar to Cursor or Windsurf, you sort of hope it does the right thing. I think one interesting thing is in the terminal, you're not just limited to coding. So people are using the terminal for source code management. So they'll get into trouble in Git, and they'll try to like vibe Git their way out of it, or they'll get into trouble with their production system and try to like vibe their way out of it. So in the terminal, we see it goes beyond just like producing code, but to like this whole feeling of like, okay, let me see if the AI can just fix this thing for me, and maybe I won't have to understand exactly what it's doing.
Good.
Yeah.
Have you found that your users maybe break the system because in the terminal you have too much power?
Oh yeah, it's a super dangerous thing for someone to do, to just kind of not know what you're doing while you're running commands at the lowest level part of the system. But it's also, it's a pretty magical thing when a developer is very frustrated and stuck on some problem. Like, I don't know, Git's a great example. It's like you messed up your whole thing and the computer can just fix it for you without you having to like kind of get in there and really understand it. So, just like with coding, I think there's pros and cons.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you. So now I have a set of questions about developers and the future of jobs. Can you raise a hand who are developer, software engineer? Okay, great. So Hina, based on your experience with startups, how you see vibe coding is changing developer skills? What's the future of our job?
Yeah, I think so. Future is important, but I think it's also important to recognize where we're at today, because sort of just picking on some of what you were saying, the vibe coding tools do have limitations. They're not the best at systems thinking. And what I mean by that is they don't understand how one component interacts with the other. And sure, you can have millions of lines of code be generated in minutes or seconds maybe, but you still need to understand what that code is actually doing. so that you can troubleshoot it and debug it when you need to. So I think there's restrictions around there. When you're building large scale, like let's say enterprise AI applications, you still have to think about security, compliance. All those things are also tasks that vibe coding tools aren't great at today. And then when we look at the future, I think especially because we have developers and non-developers in the room, I'm a product person, so I see the world of software engineering, product management, and maybe design sort of blending together into one, where if you look at examples of, let's break it down into what's been the traditional like front-end engineering role. That role now needs to think about the customer experience more. Think about what this product would feel like in the hands of customers and focus on product quality and that overall experience. So that's one side of how things are changing. Or let's say you're in a traditionally back-end type role. I think that's where thinking about the systems thinking about the impact things would have on performance, cost, like thinking about scale is going to be incredibly important. So I think we're all building architects and making better decisions depending on what side of what your role is.
Mm-hmm. So basically, all the engineers will move closer to the customer to understand like the product aspects and build systems, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, great, thank you. Artem, given your educational focus and the experience, are senior developers safe? And if you're like somebody is a student, what's the best path nowadays? How to position yourself in the future to be like somebody who is not replaced by AI?
That's I wish I knew the answer to that. I probably would do better in my career then. I think, so maybe I'd like to reply to him a little bit. And my personal perception is that I think the quality of the LLMs, like this engine that's running the vibe coding, is already good enough for us to like stop coding anything. To me, it's more the question of how we engineer the system around this, right? Like right now, we know that like a very hot topic is agents, and basically like what all agentic systems are about, right? It's all about how do we like provide the correct information to the LLM, how do we summarize our code base, and how do we provide the right tools to the LLM to actually perform the task better. So in my personal opinion, I feel that like the LLMs are already there. It's all about how do we properly provide this information about your code base, about what you want, about like any regulations, security issues that are around there. So it's all just about like the correct information, correct inputs, correct tools to the LLMs, and eventually we'll get there. So we see like so much progress in the last year done the agentic systems, and they like then 10x basically the quality of the code generated by the AI. So I think we are getting there such that we won't need to code much. And maybe like to answer to the question, I would personally look into the history of how computer science was developing. And I feel that we are going through these loops of going to higher and higher levels of abstraction, right? So in the 80s, obviously, like everyone knew how to, like if you wanted to program, you really need to have to know the details of the operation systems. You need to know how to work in like an assembler. The programming was very low level, and you need to know, like, you need to be very close to hardware. I guess like to code today, or like before the LLMs, you don't think that much about operation systems, you don't think that much about hardware, unless you're like working in something very specialized. And we can see how it evolved, right? So like right now, we don't have that many assembler or like low-level programmers jobs available. But if you know assembler, and like if you know this low-level programming, you're pretty much like secure to find a very good job. So like sometimes we need them, rarely, but when we need them, we need these professionals very strongly. So I feel that like now we are passing the same level of abstraction. So basically, instead of learning Python, you just need to know architecture and system design. And as Hina mentioned, you just need to know your customer very well. You need to know regulations and like the best practices of building the high-level systems. And you don't need to know like how to code low-level that much. And so I think, in my personal experience, the best thing you can do is just become more high level, and like instead of just digging yourself into the code and like very low level things, you need to become a bit more flexible and learning things and opening up to basically like human computer interface, and like you need to translate what people want into the vibes at some point.
Okay.
So I think that's where it's all going.
Other?
So I agree with you in general, but I also think that to maybe say, like, I do think developers, especially senior developers that have a general understanding of the whole stack from, like, let's say even from the hardware to the high level design of the software, like, I do think you need to know what you're doing. Like, I do think you need to know, to have like, I don't know, a general understanding of how I/O operations know, because I don't know if you're using files to do a synchronous operation between different processes, and you have a million processes, your system is going to break, right? Like, you need to understand those constraints, and if you just vibe it, you're not going to understand why is it not working at some point. So I do think that the abstraction level allows you and lowers the bar and makes it faster for you to move. But that intuition of understanding the systems and understanding what could go wrong, only senior engineers and only like experienced developers have it. And that I think that you will still need that for ensuring that the system works overall. I don't know if you guys agree with me.
Yeah. So by your experience, what roles are mostly been disrupted and by vibe coding, and what developer roles like we will not need in the future?
So I am very curious with these tools, and I try them in many different cases. I think the tools excel to do things that have been done already. So if you have like the typical front-end PostGRS and kind of backend connected via fast API stack, like that is going to, like that usually can get generated, modified, and is very easy to work with when you're working with these LLM assistant tools, because they have so much of these in the memory, basically in their weights. But when you're trying to do something out of the box, or when you try to get a little creative, you need to be a lot more, you have to have a lot more attention to the detail. Mm-hmm. And so I think on the novelties and on the creativity of the things that you would be creating, that is where the systems break, and that is where the human kind of needs to have more control. And for example, the world and like the services and the way we interact with the world are going to change, specifically because we have like these agentic systems being deployed, right? Like, it's not going to be the same software as a service product that we have been seeing for so long, but it's going to be a bunch of, I don't know, I'm going to say MCP servers that connect with each other, and like users just kind of like talk to their ChatGPT in their phone, and the ChatGPT is the one that is actually executing all of these tasks online. And that completely changes what the web of services are, right? Mm-hmm. And that, because of the differences that we're gonna see in there, I do think that at least for a little bit, we need humans that are very knowledgeable about what they're doing, so that the LLMs don't break.
Okay. So what you're telling is humans will be needed to new creative tasks, both in technical aspects. So like senior developers will still have a job to do something technically challenging and new, but a lot of people will be able to build products, but the new aspect there will be on the product side and not on the technical side. Most of vibe coding tools are enabling people to build something which is technically not very hard, but it's like tedious and like requires some like basic skill.
I agree.
And yeah, interesting part in creativity there lies in a product aspect, like understanding the market, customers, and what to build. And these products will be, people will be able to build this with vibe coding, but engineers like will still be needed in pushing boundaries of technology.
I mean, I am a purely scientific computing guy, and with vibe coding, I can create web pages, which is amazing. Yeah.
Or non-technical people can create web pages as well. That hobby or that cool app idea you've always had, you can bring it to life.
Yeah.
And Aldo, maybe just like very briefly, but you mentioned that there are like these common pitfalls of LLMs, and as a person who is actually building LLMs every time, like what do you think is the missing component? Like why they're failing in this like new and creative tasks? Is it like data issue? Is it architecture, scale, or just like reasoning is not there yet? What do you think we need?
That sounds very intricate question. The more detailed you are about what you're trying to do, and the more clear you have an idea of what you're trying to do, the less prone the LLM is to break. But when you just kind of like are very high level on your prompt and you don't really know, you don't really detail exactly the algorithm, and you don't really, I don't know, give it like hints of what could go wrong, for example, that is where like it breaks the most. And then the further away you go from whatever is in the memory. So when you're trying a new library, or when you're trying a new language, or like, for example, the models are not really going in Rust or other new languages that are very powerful, that's where you see that they break the most.
Okay, thank you. Zach, I have a question for you. So in about 10 years, what do you think, like, will we still use terminal? Like, will we still use developer tools, or will it be replaced by something else? By something?
I think in 10 years, the terminal will exist, but not be an everyday tool for people. It'll exist in the same way that assembler exists today, and it's just not a level of abstraction that developers need to work at. What I think will happen is terminals, and I think IDEs will either transform or be replaced by a new generation of developer tools that are built for working with LLMs, built for agents. I don't exactly know what that future will look like, but I would be very surprised if it was the same suite of tools that developers were using 10 years from now.
Yeah, good, thank you.
Yeah.
Hina, how do you think all of this changing teamwork and startups? Like, will we see like one person startup like building very complicated product, or without technical experience? What do you think?
I mean, Sam Altman said that,
Yeah.
right? We're going to see the next unicorn founded by a solo founder. I think if we bring it back to like sort of today and what we're seeing with startups, especially the ones building 0 to 1 right now, I will say the way they're hiring talent is changing. And what I mean by that is one of my startups had posted a job listing called White Coder Front-End Engineer.
Okay.
Who would have thought of that job title even more than 2 months ago? Because that term didn't exist. So that's where I think we spoke about the skills that are going to be more important. So I think the way we've traditionally hired good engineering talent is changing quite rapidly, because we know that tasks like understanding what code is actually doing, or reviewing or troubleshooting it, I mean, basically debugging is more important. So I think I'm definitely seeing shifts in the way they're hiring, because that enables them to move faster. And to your point, I mean, we're seeing really small, lean teams execute so fast, get scale that we've not heard of, whether it's number of users, whether it's revenue numbers. And I think I chuckled when you asked the 10-year question, because the CEOs I'm working with of some of the biggest companies, they can't plan more than 3 months ahead, because the world is changing so fast. Like 6 months ago, these tools enabled developers to be 10x faster. The tools today, based on like the reasoning capabilities we launched, the code upgrades, they're allowing developers to work 100x faster. So I think the way teams operate is also changing. I would say planning cycles in particular is changing. Exactly. How fast can you prototype, launch, learn, and then iterate? I think that cycle is changing pretty fast. So I don't, like, if you say CEOs can't plan 3 months ahead, what does that mean for software engineers, right? So I think everything we've known, or everything us in the industry know about like agile or planning is, I think, changing quite rapidly.
Will we need like more engineers, less engineers in a teams? Like, what do you think?
So when you ask that question, the way you're thinking of engineers is going to change, right? Like if you talk about that blending I was describing of the generalist who can engineer but has that product mindset, right? Or is that product owner. So I would say we still need the same amount of people, but who you're defining or thinking of as an engineer is going to be different from what we know today.
Okay, great. Thank you. So we have a few minutes left for closing remarks. Maybe if I haven't asked you something, but you want to say it, like you can say it, starting our term.
Actually, I wanted to bounce back to you, Nikolai, because you have so much experience in like teaching, and you're teaching, right? Like you're teaching AI, you're teaching software engineering. So I guess like to me, it's very interesting. How do you think the teaching and like what skills we need to teach now to?
That's a good question. That's a good question. I'm not sure like we will be able to cover it in a few minutes left, but I think vibe coding is similar to managing a team of. Right now it's junior developers, like it will be middle, like senior developers in the future. As a startup founder, I used to, and as a technical person, I used to manage technical teams from both technical and product side. And how I use AI nowadays is similar to that. Like I need to describe the task specifically to AI to implement. It's the same as before. I need to describe the task specifically to the person to get a good result. So I think everybody like will become more managers, but in terms of current like managers. So every developer will be a team lead of unlimited number of like junior middle level developers, and skills will be needed similar to what team lead skills are needed right now, like delegation, like task specification, like understanding the technology on like systems and level, like understanding what to ask for to be implemented. I think it will be important. But yes, it's a wild west in terms of like what's going on with coding and with engineering jobs. So I'm not completely sure, but I think we will need to in the future we will need to manage AIs to build our products, not to build our products ourselves. A little question like for me, maybe Sheena?
Do you have a minute?
We're over time.
Over time. Okay.
But thank you very much.
Thank you.
Let's give it up for our first panel. And thank you, Nikolai, for leading the panel.